In terms of speaking to a new U.S. president, first, engage. It's going to be much better for the United States, not for our own selfish interests, frankly, to engage with many of the countries across sub-Saharan Africa and to help them develop, to help them become more stable and more important players in the international community that can be allies for us in so many things that we want to do, from fighting disease to fighting terrorism across the Sahel, fighting crime for our own selfish interests. So engage deeply. Second, to echo Amadou's point, treat especially the democracies with respect and as partners, and listen carefully to their priorities and help support what they want to do rather than preaching so much. And third, think about new models. The last question about education, I couldn't agree more, but it's part of a broader problem that we have moved aggressively into a model of country-to-country support, of all of our money and all of our strategies and all of our thinking is, here's a country, how do we engage with this country? And by doing that, with funding for contractors and our bipartisan engagement, by doing that, we fail to look back and say, what assets do we have? Well, we have a great university system. And how can that great university system engage with university systems in Africa? We have a great R&D scientific community. How can that scientific community be engaged to help invest in new vaccines, in new agricultural varieties, and new water systems? You can't get at those kinds of issues. We have a great private sector. How do we get the private sector to engage? You can't get at those issues when we start from how do we engage with Mozambique, how do we engage with Nigeria. As important as those are, we are leaving off the table some really important approaches. So we have to think about new models. For a hypothetical African president, I mentioned this already, so I'll just be quick. Diversify. We talked about agriculture earlier, and I didn't mention on the question about climate change. If you want to diversify, if you want to have a robust manufacturing and service sector, you've got to invest in agriculture. We've learned from decades and decades of development experience that you have to have productive agriculture as the foundation for development and diversifying into manufacturing and services. So diversify, invest in infrastructure, invest in education, invest in both your capital and your human resources, and then again, foster democracy, be open to these protests. These protests that Judd was talking about earlier, this is a sign of a vibrant democracy. This is not a failure of democracy. This is a success of democracy. Encourage openness, encourage voice, encourage accountability, and then over time, that's what builds the institutions where countries continue to be successful over time.